beautiful, buzzing and brilliant. The sights of Brisbane, where the first T20I between India and Australia is set to get underway in just under 20 minutes from now. We're building up to the first of three T20Is that kicks off this much-awaited tour in international cricket, India v Australia. One more time down under. This is ESPN Cricinfo Matchday, and in the familiar company, in the familiar language for me, Murli Karthik. Good to have you, Karthik.
Oh, thanks a lot, Ronak. Cheers.
And it's a big hello to Sean Tate, who joins us from Australia as well. I don't think he rates Brisbane as high as Adelaide, perhaps, but he can correct me.
Not quite, but it did look pretty nice on that vision there.
It didn't take us too long. That's the best of Brisbane we could manage to get in.
I was going to say, I was waiting for you to slam Brisbane, yeah.
Okay.
It didn't take long.
All right, we're focusing on the cricket itself, where Virat Kohli has won the toss. India will bowl first in the first T20I. Let's get quick reactions on just the setup and start for this game. This T20I series, how big is it for India to get a good head start, given Australia seem to be treating this and the Test series very differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there have been many years where we have contested but not been able to win. I think it's a great chance for the Indian team to go and dominate because India is doing really well in all formats. It's a very strong side, and on the flip side, Australia is not as strong as it used to be. There are big, huge, gaping holes in everything. You look at the batting, you look at most things, and whatever they've hit, it's actually rock bottom if you think about where Australian cricket stood. So it's a great chance for India to dominate.
I mean, everything that's going on, Sean Tate, with the Australian cricket, and it seems to be affecting results on the field. Series defeat to South Africa, not much that they took from the UAE either against Pakistan. Is this high-profile series just what Australia might need in a strange way to get the best out of them, or do you see India as an extremely strong team against Australia at this time where there's a lot of fragility?
I think it's the perfect time for Australian cricket. And instead of playing against a lesser side, maybe straight into the heat of the kitchen against a really good team at the moment, India, and good to test themselves. That's the best way to do it, to get stuck into it. So I don't know what you guys think, but is this possibly on paper and the way they're playing, it might be India's best team for a long time, I think.
I like how you just snuck in that South Africa and Pakistan might be lesser sides, the ones they just played against.
I didn't mention any names.
Yeah, of course you didn't. The teams itself first, before we take the conversation forward with Karthik and Sean, and we have confirmations on the 11 that India have picked from the 12 that they announced on the eve of this game, and there's no place for Yuzvendra Chahal, who sat out a fair number of the T20Is against the West Indies too. So Virat Kohli wanting to have his five bowlers in the form of Pandya, Yadav, Kumar, Khalil Ahmed and Jasprit Bumrah. There is place for Rishabh Pant, who will take the gloves in this series ahead of Dinesh Karthik, who plays as a pure batsman with the top four ahead of him. Karthik, is that a team that you're in total agreement with?
Look, the 11 I gave you yesterday, there's one man missing. That's Chahal. I didn't have Krunal Pandya for the reason that two wrist spinners on Australian surfaces, and they've gone well in tandem. I reckon they've gone in for the extra batting of Krunal Pandya. Bowling is his lesser suit at the moment, but I would have still gone for Chahal, at least for the first game, and seen how he's gone, because both of them have done really well. And you have to keep in mind Australian tracks, Maxwell and the others who have not played him much. I would have definitely gone for Chahal.
Do they need the extra insurance with the bat in this format?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So you have to give the onus on the others, because we were just talking about the fact that how good the top three have been.
Yes.
And yes, you want the likes of Rishabh Pant, Dinesh Karthik and KL Rahul. I'm so happy to see him in the 11. So these guys have to come and step up. So I don't think you needed the extra batting of Krunal Pandya.
Is this just one of those, it's Brisbane, we're not quite sure, let's just get an extra few batters in, maybe we might need to bat first, which is not the case now, Sean. But do you understand the decision, or would you still think Australia would have been a lot more, would be happy to not see the two wrist spinners play in this Indian team?
I think it's better. I think they'd be happier for sure. I think, and Charles been in pretty good form the last calendar year with the T20s as well. So he's taken a lot of wickets. I think the Australians would have had a lot of problems with his bowling. And I agree. I don't think you probably need the extra batting depth. I think their batting's good enough without that anyway. But let's see what happens.
Okay, but they don't have Yuzvendra Chahal to contend with, and Australia have gone in for the leg spin of Adam Zampa. As we confirm the Australian team for you, we already know that they're without two of their talisman players. If you haven't been following what's happening with Australian cricket, well, just get onto the site. But as of now, Aaron Finch leads this team with some T20 experts in Darcy Short, Chris Lynn, Alex Carey to take the gloves. There's also place for Ben McDermott, who can also keep wicket. Ben McDermott at his home ground, as also Billy Stanley, Andrew Tye, Adam Zampa, Jason Berendorf round up the bowling, Marcus Stoinis and Glenn Maxwell at bat and ball balance. There's no place for Nathan Coulter-Nile and Ashton Agar. Thoughts on that team, Sean Tate?
Yeah, I had Zampa in my side as well instead of Agar, so that's interesting. I actually didn't think they were going to go with that, but I think it's a good option. I think throw something a little bit different there. It might be a bit more of a risk playing Zampa than Agar, but I think against India, to make inroads into some of their right hand, especially some of the guys that they've got coming in, I think Zampa's not a bad option. He's a wicket taker, and he's been pretty good in this format. So he's played a bit of IPL. He's played, he's done pretty well. So it's good to see him in the side. But I've got to say, I know it sounds like doom and gloom, but to me, that's not a bad side. That they've got some big hitters in there. Chris Lynn's put me on the roof of the Gabba at this ground. So let's see if he can do the same thing tonight.
Okay. Looking at that team, it still looks like a decent, more than decent 2020 bowling unit. You've got few guys there who bowled well in the IPL too. You know what Berendorf is about, even though we've seen little of him. We remember that game at Guwahati when Australia came here and he ripped through the top four. Andrew Tye has got a great IPL reputation. Stanley was impressive. Zampa can bowl. Stoinis we know is handy. Does the batting worry you?
Look, if Chris Lynn gets off to a start along with Aaron Finch, then it's going to be very tough for the Indians to stop him because of the way he goes about it. Everybody knows that he's going to clear his front leg and then swing. But the thing is, he seems to be very effective, and that too on Australian surfaces, especially the Gabba, it's going to be very true. So if they don't get a hold of that, then it's going to be tough, because then you're always trying to play catch up. Every bowler then you're not thinking of wickets, then you're trying to minimize damage. So it's about stopping Mr.
Lynn in the beginning, the man who's put Sean Tate on the roof at the Gabba, as he himself has humbly pointed out. Now, great Australian teams have been built on the back of strong batting at the top of the order. Shane Warne played in many of those, and here he is now talking about the problems of this batting order.
It's going to be tough for the Aussies, but hopefully tonight they'll play well in Brisbane and try and get off a series in a right start in the 2020s and get one up on India before the test matches start. Yeah, we've got a lot of young talent. We've got a lot of talent in Australia at the moment. I just don't think we're playing the right brand of cricket, making a lot of the same mistakes all the time. So that's probably the most disappointing thing about the way the guys are playing at the moment. If we can make some runs, then I think we can win the series. That's the problem, though, making some runs at the moment.
I assure you, unmistakably under that shadow of that cap was indeed the great Shane Warne. You could tell with his voice. Australian batsmen's T20I record in 2018. Aaron Finch stands out, an average of nearly 47, a strike rate of 190. You expect a little more from Chris Lynn, certainly from the likes of Darcy Short after the kind of start he's had. But an average of 35 doesn't quite matter as much either. Alex Carey has been young in this format. Have they got their batting order right? Have they got their personnel right, Sean Tate, from where you look at it?
Well, I think you can, we can all sit there and talk about batting orders, and even the players lately, when they've been interviewed over here, they've been talking about the batting order a hell of a lot. At the end of the day, it just comes down to making runs. Just get some guys in positions that look like they're fairly familiar and make runs. It's as simple as that. That's all anyone can ask. That's what the selectors want. So, and a lot of these guys have batted in all different positions in the Big Bash, in the IPL, or for Australia. So there can't be too many excuses there, I don't think.
Not that I like to touch upon this all the time, but it is a reality in cricket now that when T20I cricket comes close to an IPL auction, it is a small little audition for many players. We saw that at the West Indies. Now I think Shimron Hetmyer might get a bargain or a bid or two. This could be a nice time for some of the Aussie players to just reinforce their value in international cricket.
Do you think they'd look at it like that?
Would you look at it like that?
No, never. Because of the fact that when you're playing for the country, your own reputation, the fact that you're representing your country is at stake. If it happens, it happens. Otherwise, sometimes it just pans out. It just pans out that way, that you're at the right place at the right time. The Big Bash is happening, and then when you've done well, it becomes an easy picking ground or a sampling ground for IPL. But otherwise, I don't think so. The players think like that, because international cricket is pressure already, and you don't want to add another pressure of trying to be an audition Or
By
IPL.
default, perhaps. But maybe it's just more tempting for the West Indies, when they come to town, given how much they enjoy auditioning for the IPL. But would you go with that, Sean? Maybe they're not intending for it, but a good performance against India tends to be taken note of, and there are a lot of IPL captains playing in the Indian team. It could just make your 2020 career take off. You can't tell me it's not a factor when T20Is happen these days.
It's certainly in the back of in players' mind, no doubt. I mean, the Indian guys, obviously, they're going to play in a team somewhere, but there's obviously more competition for spots with the Aussies. But I mean, Karti's right. At the end of the day, you're there to try and win a game for Australia or India, and you've got to concentrate on that. But I know certainly, say 5-6 years ago, the IPL was a bit newer. Players were talking about it at times in the dressing room. If someone got 100 or someone took a 3 for off with not many runs, there was certainly talk about IPL stuff, but that might have faded out now, I think. And I think Australia have got bigger things to worry about right now than IPL selections.
Okay, let's take a bit of a breather from the actual cricket that we're going to talk about. As we kick this series off, we've got the wonderful Shibani Dandekar, who's going to show us the sights and sounds of Australia, travel to the big cities and find one Australian cricketer for company. She's managed to get hold of Andy Bickle in Brisbane. If you thought Australia was all about big cities, well, you're going to be in for something new. This is ESPN Cricinfo Undiscover Australia, presented by Tourism Australia.
I'm in Brisbane today, where the opening T20 match of the Australia-India series will be played. Brisbane local and ex-Chennai Super Kings coach Andy Bickle has promised me a fun day outdoors.
Hey,
Andy.
how are you, Doc?
Good, how are you?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Look at this place. Tangalooma is where we're going.
Tangalooma is where we're going. It's on Moreton Island, which is it's the largest sand island, and it's so close to Brisbane. Well, Moreton Island, you might say, is a place that we've used with the Queensland Bulls. We made them do a 46k trek around the island.
They must have been shattered by the end of it.
They were shattered. There was blisters.
Broken.
There was lots of injuries.
Were there
that
tears?
happened. There was lots of tears.
What was
I won't
there?
mention who they were, but there was some
Love
tears.
it.
We reach Tangalooma and head straight off to the sand dunes.
This is where we're going to do sand tobogganing.
Eagles fly, chickens die, that's what we say. From one little boy to the 8 months old. And we've had a 96-year-old guy do it. So yeah, anyone can do it. 3, 2, 1, go.
Of course, I have to get Andy to dance with me, and what better place than the sand dunes shot with a drone? How very Bollywood. From sand to surf, we head off into the ocean to snorkel amongst shipwrecks. And remember, guys, safety first.
Okay, not okay. It means going up. This is okay. Huh?
Yeah, that's exactly.
The great thing is that when you actually look at the water from the surface, it doesn't look like there's much down there.
No.
But the second you just pop your head in just even a little bit, there is absolute magic down here.
A quick dip and a quicker buggy ride later, we arrive at the highlight of the day.
Look at them.
We've all got their names as well, which is, you know.
These are not SeaWorld dolphins, these are wild dolphins. It just goes to show how incredibly beautiful and gentle and friendly this animal is.
Cool.
Oh, he's touching my leg.
For selfie with Eka, yes.
What a perfect end to a beautiful day, and what an epic start to an exploration of this incredible country. Catch me on the next match day as I find out what thrills and chills Melbourne has to offer.
How spectacular was that? Shivani Dandekar in Brisbane as part of ESPN Cricinfo Undiscover Australia. You're going to get a lot more of that as this series goes on, presented of course by Tourism Australia. Sean Tate, it seemed like your old buddy Andy Bickle was having a good time of it as well.
I was going to say, any chance for him to get his shirt off? I knew that was going to happen.
Well,
there was a scene with his shirt off. He was always going to do that.
Careful what you tend to build up on this. I believe you have also accompanied Shivani on the streets of Adelaide.
I have. It looked a lot less boring than what those guys were doing.
I'm going to see what finally makes the edit, and if not, I'll ask for something in particular. Speaking of Brisbane, final word on it. I know some Australian fans are actually gutted that they're not starting the home test summer with a test match at the Gabba. Are you one of those as well who would have liked to see the series kick off for the Gabba? It is in T20 eyes.
It doesn't bother me, to be honest. I mean, I think certainly from the Australian point of view, because they've got a great record at the Gabba. So from a cricket point of view, especially against India, it would have been more of an advantage for Australia to play there. But I mean, really, it doesn't matter. Let's be honest.
All right, you couldn't give a damn about history, Sean Tate. No. I know you're one of those. Just get the runs, get it done, no matter where you're playing. Let's look at what Brisbane tells us in terms of T20I cricket, though, and it doesn't come much in it. But we're looking at the last 5 T20s, not just international cricket. The average first inning score 184. It's a decent size, and the team batting first has won 4 out of the 5 matches. I wonder Virat Kohli glanced upon that stat before making the call that he did. Pace bowlers average 26, while spinners average around 40. Maybe that gives you an idea of the team selection. How about that? Do you think you would have seen that stat and said, oh, team's batting first and you get 180 and win?
Look, he's like Sean Tate. He doesn't
care
about stats and anything else. But look, you do keep those things in mind, because you've got all these stats people, all the computer analysts and stuff like that. They give you these things, but again, at the end of the day, you have to assess the situation which is there in front of you, not go by what's happened before.
Australia, you think then 180 would be a competitive, formidable score for India to chase?
Absolutely, I think 184 on any surface, and against a team like India, they would fancy themselves.
That's the aim then, Sean Tate, 180, and you'd be happy if you're Australia?
Yeah, that's a good score, but I mean, they're going to have to get a big score against this Indian side for sure.
All right, well, they are already underway at the Aussie opener, so to the Indian team. Many thanks to Sean Tate and Murali Karthik. We will get their thoughts at halftime of this first T20I that kicks off what should be an absolutely appetizing series. Thanks for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. We'll see you again for our mid-innings show. Download our mobile app to stay up to date with everything that goes on in the first 20 overs of this series.